call the meeting to order of the regular meeting of the Planning and Zoning Commission for April 11th. Y'all please stand for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance
to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
All right, good evening, everyone. Just a reminder, if you do have a cell phone, just put it on silent or vibrate. If you got to take a phone call, step outside. If you're here for one of the hearings tonight and you want to speak, some paperwork in the back, just fill that out and bring it up to Amber here at the front. Other than that, we'll start with roll call.
Walton.
Here.
Stephenson.
Here.
Ward.
Here.
Hampy. Here.
All right. Any ceremonies, appointments, announcements, presentations today?
Yeah, today's National Pet Day, so yeah, it's a time to remember and a special moment for your pets.
All right. Any amendments to the agenda?
None.
Then, commission members, any declarations of conflict, ex parte contact, site visits? Anything to declare? Nope.
No.
All right. That being said, move on to the consent calendar.
Yeah, action item A is the meeting minutes from 3/14/2023.
All right. Hope you guys got a chance to look at that.
Yeah.
Do a motion for that.
I move to approve the consent calendar as presented.
I'll second.
All right. Got a first and second? Do a vote?
Hampy.
Yes.
Ward.
Yes.
Stephenson.
Yes.
Walton.
Yes.
All right, the next item on the agenda is citizen issues. This section is reserved for citizens wishing to address the commission on an issue that is not on the agenda tonight. Persons wishing to speak will have 5 minutes. Comments related to any public hearings, including decisions that may be appealed by city council, are out of order at this time and should be held for that public hearing. Repeating comments of same or similar topics previously addressed are also out of order, not allowed. Comments regarding the performance of city employees are inappropriate. It should be directed to the mayor by an appointment only. With that being said, do we have anybody that has any citizen issues they would like to speak about tonight? All right, seeing none, we'll keep moving on. John, do we have any?
James, I'm sorry.
Oh.
Just a clarification, that's public comment, just for open public comment for anybody?
Citizen issues or? Oh, citizen, okay. You got one? Yeah. Name and address for the record, please.
Hi, my name is Greta Gissel, and I live at 1215 East St. Mary's in Coeur d'Alene, Idaho. I just wanted to talk about the need for local worker housing in the city of Post Falls. As you know,
Sorry, really quick, this is the one that you want to talk about, the RGHIP, not application specific, right?
Right.
Okay.
Thank you. Bob's really helpful, thanks. And so knowing that the projections for Post Falls and your population will be doubling by the year 2040, so you have about 17 years to prepare for double the population that you have right now. And so I just wanted to speak about the need for available housing that local workers can afford. And so I work for an organization called Connect Kootenai, and what we're doing right now is really focusing on how can we provide and create, preserve, protect local worker housing for the people that want to live where they work here in Post Falls. And so I just wanted to thank you for your attention to those items coming up in the future, and thank you for your time. Thanks.
All right, thank you. Anyone else? All right, any unfinished or old business?
There's none.
All right, that'll move us into our public hearings section of the agenda. As I said before, if anybody wants to speak, fill out the paperwork and we'll do that. So we'll open the first hearing Housing Company Zone Change, file ZC-23-1, and John Manley will be presenting.
Yes, thanks. Good evening, Commission. John Manley, Planning Manager here, presenting the this housing company zone change. File number ZC-23-1. Applicant is Nate Wheeler of the housing company, and he's representing the owners of the Society of St. Vincent de Paul and the City of Coeur d'Alene. And what they're looking for is a zone change, a recommendation of a zone change to City Council. City Council will ultimately make the decision from what's currently the medium density R2 and community commercial service zone to the proposed smart code SC5 zone. And this would be to facilitate their desire to create a mixed-use multifamily community on their 1.16 acre lot. Location of this is, as you see here, it's just a bit west of the intersection of Spokane Street and Celtice Way, southwest corner of Catherine Street and Celtice. Current land use on that, you have an older vacant commercial building at that location. You also have some older multifamily housing with some tenants in it currently. The site is over the Rathdrum Prairie Aquifer. The water provider would be the City of Post Falls as well as the wastewater. Here is the zoning designations that you see here that was mentioned. The medium densities on the southern house, half of that lot, the R2, and there is some apartments on that currently. And then the vacant commercial is where you see that red, that's CCS on the south side of Celtice Way. What you see in purple is a Smart Code 5 zone. Just to the southeast of that, you see some other commercial zones to the west and east and along the north side of Celtice Way. To the southwest at this location, you do have a multifamily building there that's on R3 zone properties. And Treaty Rock Park is also zoned R3. So looking at the proposal, we look at the review criteria for a zone change. We actually have, this is one of the remaining 2 on our old zone change criteria, and June and thereafter you'll probably be seeing the new criteria. We only have 3 in that set here, so we have 6 criteria we'll be going over. So the first one looks at the future land use map, and are you being consistent with that, with the proposal? So the designation is business commercial, and it's also within the Celtice Central focus area. The pink area is that swath of business commercial that's through that quarter, and you can see where that project sits in that business commercial designation. I'll come back to this, and how this all comes to play is, thought I had the transitional future land use map in here. Sorry. So seeing that. So the future land use map has this all, sorry, I'm thinking of a different project. So anyhow, so right here when you look at the business commercial, it looks at the implementing zones potential. You see the SC5 being bold, and it also talks about a focus area, and it talks about what's underlined here in the proposal. It looks at promoting a mixture of moderate to high density housing types that are within walking distance of a city center, neighborhood center, and corridor commercial, as well as civic uses and other amenities within Post Falls. So going back to this site, at this location, you have some of those commercial businesses along the Spokane corridor as well as 7th Avenue. You have other amenities and commercial services on the south side of Spokane. So the proposal may be perceived as being consistent with the principle and use character of that future land use designation, business commercial. Here's the Celtice Central focus area. What I have highlighted here is it specifically calls out encouraging high density residential units in this area. Also talks about supporting development patterns to improve pedestrian connectivity to the commercial. As I mentioned, you have that commercial services in the area and other commercial businesses, so a mixed residential community would have direct access to those services and businesses. The other one is seek opportunities to coordinate the investment of planning energies between Southeast Central and City Center. This would be following suit within that highlighted portion of that focus area. The second criteria is to grow and sustain a balanced, resilient economy for Post Falls, providing community prosperity and fiscal health. There's comments in more detail in the staff report, where one may see this as benefiting, having that balance of worker housing near commercial services. Plan for and establish types of quantities of land uses for Post Falls, supporting community needs and city's long-term sustainability. Kind of goes and dovetails into the previous comment. I believe the applicant, they'll probably go in more detail, but they intend to provide some workforce housing in a mixed-use community. Policy 1 here, support land uses that do the following. You can see that list. Foster the long-term fiscal health of a community. So a lot of that is a balance between providing housing with jobs, as well as enhanced residential quality of life. Here you have the proposed site, and you have a bus route in a very close proximity. So, you know, oftentimes individuals in a development proposal as this do rely on bus services nearby to keep their quality of life and access to other amenities within the region. And this is in a proximity that would provide that. Promote compatible, well-designed development. We have mixed-use design standards within our code that would help assist that policy point. Factors in policy 2. Apply and revise zoning designations with careful considerations of these following factors. You look in the staff report, once again we go into further details, but you know, it would be compatible with the surrounding land uses. There are acknowledgments of the infrastructure and services and the future traffic patterns being able to facilitate their proposal. This would be considered compatible infill development. As I went over the zoning to the north, west, and east, you can see that a lot of those uses are commercial in nature or have other high intense or high density residential, or even may have some apartments on the existing site as it is. Policy 20 in the comprehensive plan, consider the location of multifamily development in areas that have access to arterial and collector streets, help buffer between higher and lower intense development patterns, abut compatible existing uses, and are part of projects involving mixed use in master planned areas. One thing to note on here, this is adjacent to Southeast Way, which would be an arterial roadway.
Okay.
Policy 86, with the local business community, work to enhance sustained diversity and diversify the local economic base by doing the following. You see here support opportunities for related and mixed use models, coordinate provisions for workforce housing. So those would be the items that you could see could fall in line with their proposal. There's their project location again. Kind of went over the location of it being on the arterial roadway. This comes with criteria C, where it talks about looking at and applying zones, looking at the traffic patterns, street classifications, and existing development. This is a model we use here. We can see as you go from higher mobility roadways to lesser mobility, you do get increased access, less access. Being along a principal arterial, you see both commercial and high density falling in line with the road classification of Southeast Way, so being compatible. Criteria D kind of goes right back into that. Commercial and high density residential zoning is typically assigned higher road classifications. Fifth criteria deals with limited neighborhood commercial that's not being asked, therefore really not applicable. Sixth criteria is also not applicable as it deals with industrial proposals. Here's the agencies that were notified. See, the Highway District had no comment. Yellowstone Pipeline said there's no impact on any of their right-of-ways. Cooney County Fire, they said they would coordinate any items at the time of development. School district remain neutral, and Department of Environmental Quality said that no impact, no environmental impact, so no comments. Questions for me?
You guys got any questions?
No. Looks good.
Nancy?
If it were to stay medium density, as it currently is, a mixed medium density R2, what would be allowed, what's the highest density that would be allowed there? Or number of units?
Technically, the existing apartments are basically legal non-conforming.
Okay.
Because we removed multifamily out of our medium density for other purposes. And so that's one situation at hand. So the most they could do would be townhomes, duplexes.
Okay,
and,
okay, yeah, that's right.
Maybe
okay.
cottages,
Okay.
something of lesser intense. So, yeah, so with the SC5, they would be able to go.
And so at this, I kind of made a little calculation at 1.16 acres and 32 units, it would be somewhere between 27 to 28 units per acre, correct? I mean, something like that, something around?
Proportionally, it sounds like it.
Okay, so does that, does that fall within the Smart Code 5?
Yeah, because smart code
Okay.
goes by a minimum density, not a
Okay,
maximum.
okay,
A lot of times we
okay.
talk about with traditional zoning, you have a max density, and then you get density bonuses by doing certain things with
Yeah, okay.
multifamily. Smart code kind of goes in reverse. It's more performance-based, a minimum-based density, and then you can go from there. And so what the qualifying nature in smart code is you got to provide on-street parking, swells, and it consumes some of the land massing. And so
Okay.
dealing with some other site configurations
Okay.
restricts the number of net units you really could yield on a parcel.
Okay, and so Smart Code, the idea behind it is kind of a commercial and high-density residential. However, in this particular case, there would be no commercial. It would just be high-density.
No, I think they want to do a mixed-use commercial building.
Oh, they do?
And it's smart
Okay.
code, yeah, so that's their intent. And so currently that site has apartments and it has some commercial square footage. It used to be the St. Vincent de Paul Commercial Center, and it has multifamily. So really what they're trying to do is, instead of having fragmented different units, putting it all in one building.
Okay, okay.
Same
Yeah.
type of uses on the same block, just a different form with a form-based code being smart code.
Okay, that makes sense, and they'll probably explain that when they
Yeah.
come up as well. Okay.
Anything else?
And I apologize for being lost. I've been working on 2 different PowerPoints. So I literally got disjointed. It's the first time that's happened, so.
No worries.
All right.
All right, now we'd like to invite the applicant up.
That'd be great if you could, thank you.
Which one is it, you know?
Let's see, what did she say? That looks like it, that looks like it.
There you go. There's the clicker.
That's my clicker. All right, thank you. Mr. Chair, Commissioners, Mr. Manley, thank you so much for your presentation. Just wanted to share with you just a little bit about this project. Mr. Manley did a great job on explaining the way that we see it conforming into the area, and also at the same time seeing ways in which we can help out in this development site and everything. And I'm here representing St. Vincent de Paul. Mr. Larry Riley is the figurehead for that, or what's your I'm sorry, I mess up. Once again, see, usually John and I hang out together. Executive Director for the St. Vincent de Paul. We're representing him here. This is a partnership with another nonprofit. And just to explain a little bit about who we are as the housing company, is we are also a nonprofit, but what we focus on is multifamily developments. Matter of fact, we have one here in Post Falls that you'll see later. We have 2 over in Coeur d'Alene. From Moscow up to Sandpoint, we have 9 developments. Total, we have 40 different apartment complexes across the state of Idaho. One is in Montana, and then we manage another 10. We've never sold any of our assets at any time. We keep them and in order to encourage affordable housing. One of the things with affordable housing is that it's all based upon an area median income that at the federal level that dictates by a census tract. And so they might say, hey, the area median income, the average median income of this area is 100,000, and then we, on a percentage basis, rent out to people that make a percentage of that amount, and it's all highly regulated and helping people get in. So usually, the people that rent our places are entry-level first responders, retail workers, wait staff, things of this nature. This is the kind of people that we would rent to here. And this is a little bit of our project here, and you can see that it is in high demand. Here recently, there is the National Low Income Housing Coalition and the Idaho Asset Building Network assessed Idaho to see its income based upon the amounts of rent. And usually there's a threshold of about 30% of your income should not go any more to your housing needs. And they said we're at about 25,000 affordable housing units short in the state of Idaho currently. We would like to make a little dent in that with this project here. And you can see that gold star over there is where our current project is. We've had that one since 1991. It's our Celtice apartment project, and we would like to be able to develop over at that other location there. This is the site from above. I won't be redundant, so I'll just kind of go quickly through what Mr. Manley shared. This is the current zoning aspects of it, like he shared, and this is what we would like to turn it into. These are the number of the buildings there. We have 7 buildings. As you can see, the ones with the orange hexagon underneath them are buildings with a basement. If we were to develop this site, all those buildings would be removed. Engineered fill would come back in to the compaction levels, and then we would rebuild over the top of this, cleaning up this side on it. You can see in the top right corner a green rectangle. That is where 3 fuel tanks that were closed by DEQ back in 1993 are still at. That will most likely, based upon environmental reviews, that whether those get removed or not, but most likely we're looking at even cleaning that up, and those 2 would be removed. So that is our plan with this, is to really give this a refresh on this. This is currently what it looks like from the northeast, looking around, and now we're going to take a right and kind of wrap around the sides of it here. This is one from kind of a northwesterly view on it here. This is more from a northwesterly view of the property, looking right down Compton. And then if we go down Compton, what we'll see is this westerly view here. You can see the warming shelter up on the front, and we can get the picture as it goes down there by 7th Avenue. This is more of a southwesterly view, looking back at the project where there are current tenants in on the far right side of that building. Now if we swing over and jump over that whole property and hit the east side with the used car lot behind me, this is what we see on that. What we are hoping to do is put something together like this. These are schematics, these are renderings. These things can also change. Realize that there will be color codes are not set in place. Materials on the exterior are not set in place. And obviously the people aren't either that you see in that rendering there. So this is all kind of in flex, but it gives somewhat of a perspective on what something should look like. We are looking at doing what's called a 2/1. 2 stories of the top, there's 3 stories with the top 2 floors being dedicated towards housing and the bottom floor being dedicated towards retail, with St. Vincent de Paul's thrift store being there of approximately 10,000 square feet. This is what it would look like if you were to stand up on Treaty Rock and peer down, roughly. What we're seeing, as you can see, a little plaza area with the main entry coming in from the south side with the covered parking with the units over the top of that. And then this would be if we were to stand on the other SC5 zoning that's on the north side of the freeway. that Mr. Manley mentioned earlier and looked across the corner there, that's what you would see from that perspective. Our hope is the demographic that we tend to, that our projects are geared more towards are more pedestrian in nature, more carpooling in nature. And what I wanted to show here is just kind of what services and are available to them within walking distance from our property. That blue line shows a crosswalk that's in there, a lighted crosswalk that you can go down, zigzag your way over, and where that circle is at is bus stop number 25, right in front of the Gathering restaurant is where that one's at. And these green rectangles are other food eateries around the area where they might find employment in. The next ones here are actually family centers, so you've got everything from a school to a library to the Boys and Girls Club to an after-school program, which is in walking distance from this place. And then last is just some other retail options or industrial other workplaces, all within the north side of the interstate and all within walking distance. And this is our preliminary site plan. As you can see that we have a retail space there, the parking lot, the way that's laid out. Once again, this is not formed. This will change in the future when we work with planning. If this gets recommended and City Council approves this, this will change and it will be adjusted, but this is just a preliminary look at what it would be. And as you saw that there were 2 stories over the top of it, this is where those other 2 stories footprint would come up from there, is right along there, and cause that covering on that. So just to kind of give you some ideas, one of the things that we also looked at, and Mr. Riley took a look at this, was that they also have their own apartment complexes. And it is true that the demographic that qualifies to stay with us, they just have the more pedestrian in nature. And so, but there are parking requirements that these zonings ask for. And currently we are okay. I think the parking requirements are at 58 and we are at 67, but if those have to decrease or whatever, or there might be adjustments on concerns on that, we decided to do a check. And what that was is that Mr. Riley went and checked out how many cars are actually parked at our locations during different times, during different days. And that's what you see here, is that on the 4th and on the 6th at these different time zones, the different times, went and checked out those parking areas, parking lots, and said how many vehicles are actually parked here. And you can see that off to the right side, we had a ratio now that we can see spaces to vehicles and units to vehicles. And then up at the top, you can see kind of an average between all of that data. And based upon that, with 32 different units that we're proposing, with 73 spaces, we're looking at somewhere between 23 and 31 parking spaces would most likely be needed, which would free up about 42 parking spaces for the retail center to allow flowing traffic through or guests or what have you. And that's also on the low end. It goes up as high as 50 free parking spaces of what's being required. So just to let you know, we feel very comfortable with the adequacy with the people that we're meeting with and that were qualified to stay with us in our apartment complex and the parking that's going to be allowed here. So in conclusion, we would request your approval of this onto City Council for their final approval on that. We concur with everything that Mr. Manley went ahead and shared. And with that, that concludes my presentation pending your questions.
You guys have any questions?
No, I think you answered mine, so.
Yeah, I don't have any questions.
Okay, I got 1 or 2. So basically, that the 2 different lots would be basically totally remodeled. Everything would go down to the ground and then back up?
Yeah, Mr. Chair, that's correct. That is correct. Everything would be taken down. Let's see here. Go back to that slide. So yes, all these buildings that we're looking at now will be scraped. The basements will be filled with engineer fill, and all of that would be taken out Correct.
Possibly those tanks removed also?
The tanks most likely will be removed pending a Phase 2 inspection, but probably, like very likely.
Gotcha. All right.
And that includes the asphalt too, Mr. Chair.
Gotcha. And then as far as parking, this always seems to come up with apartments. Everybody says there's not enough parking in apartments. Obviously, this project is probably a little bit different because of the development of it. But so you had, what would it be, like 60 spots total? And that's for the apartments and for commercial use also?
Mr. Chair, yes, that's correct. We have, based up on the SC5 zoning, it allows a ratio of 1.5 parking spaces per residential unit. And so with that, let me get over here to the other parking size here. So with that, that allows us to have a little less than what would normally be if it was a multifamily zoning district. And then when you look at the demographic that qualifies to stay here with us on the workforce housing, it just, there's just not as many vehicles that will be in this lot than what other ones, market rate units might have.
Cool. All right, that makes sense. Cool. Thank you. I don't have anything else.
John, can you remind me of the height limitations in SC5?
Height is 4 stories. So there's no height really per se, it's more of a stories thing.
Right, gotcha.
Minimum of 2.
And how would, so this would be 2 on 1, so 3 stories. How did that compare to the apartments that are already there? About the same height, roughly?
The law office behind it, I think, redid it. What are they, 36 feet? I think something like that.
Okay. Anything else?
No, sir.
No.
All right, thank you. Do we have any public comment?
We do.
All right. All in favor, let's see, wishing to speak? James Casper? You guys want to come up here and have 4 minutes to speak?
Hi, I'm James Casper, Executive Director with Habitat for Humanity of North Idaho. We are also in the business of developing housing for those that can't afford normal market rate housing. Housing is a tough equation. I've said this before in other places, but it's a market-based service. It's developed by developers, and the market does not build units in this category for people in this income. So what you have is you have providers, whether it's Habitat for Humanity, St. Vincent de Paul, the housing company, that are in the business of creating something that is not provided by the rest of the market. So it is unique. It's not what is normal in the rest of your neighborhoods, but they are the same people who live in your town, that live in some of those neighborhoods. Maybe they're not living as well as they would like to, or struggling living with family otherwise. So one of the things about these projects is they provide some alternatives that the rest of the market won't build. You have 32 units, but many of these units are smaller units, 1-bedroom or 2-bedroom, which are not really built in any of the newer projects. There are older projects in these communities that are built, in smaller footprints, but we tend not to build those in the market because, well, there's more profit in larger units in general. It's a very straightforward equation as a developer when it comes to that. There are always questions about usability and functionality. One of the things that happens, though, is there's some self-selection. People who maybe want more space might not choose to live here for the fact that they don't have the space. For people who don't have any other option, they'll accept the rough edges around not having the extra space, maybe not being able to have multiple cars or a garage. That's one of the nice things about having these available, is that there is some option in the market that allows them to be able to choose that. If none of these type of units exist, you don't know if somebody would choose to live there. They're not here to advocate on their behalf. The people who might live here don't probably even know who they are, probably, for the 32 different units. So it's sometimes hard to hear from those people when you're developing or planning for these projects. But what I do know is that every single affordable unit that we build is in demand. There's somebody that needs to live there, and that their life is improved because of it. The rest of the projects that St. Vincent de Paul owns and operates and otherwise, they're all full. There are waiting lists in all of these different kind of projects to provide any kind of opportunity that's a lower price point than the regular market. And even double the interest rates hasn't really slowed down the market. So from that perspective, these projects really are something that adds some creativity and some flexibility they don't really get created by anybody else in the community. So for that reason, we'd like to offer our support for the project. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
All right. Also in favor and wishing to speak, John Ingalls.
John Ingalls, City of Coeur d'Alene. Thank you, commissioners, for your volunteer service. I sit on Coeur d'Alene's P&Z, and not enough people thank you for your volunteerism, and I appreciate that, and I can relate to that. I've also spent 15 years in a leadership position with the City of Coeur d'Alene, and through P&Z and my time with the City of Coeur d'Alene, I've learned to really appreciate St. Vincent de Paul, what a quality organization they are, what great partners they are and will be in your community. So with that, you know, it's already been established the housing shortage. And just recently in the press on the 29th of March, our good folks at North Idaho Building Contractors Association mentioned that we have a shortage of 2,350 housing units currently, right now. Even greater need is the affordable housing, you know, and as Nate pointed out, you know, in Idaho we got 39,722 extremely low income households, but only 15,012 affordable rental units available to them. So therefore that delta of 25,000 units that Nate mentions, 32 units, that's not going to put a huge dent in it, but we got to make some progress somewhere along the way. And I just say that this project, I believe, is well conceived. I think it'll be a great fit for that location. St. Vincent de Paul, as I mentioned, they have a proven track record of leading the design and construction of quality projects. Just come over to Coeur d'Alene if you've driven through, I'm sure you have. We have the Lynn Peterson House and the Kathy Reed House, similar size and scope, and I can tell you though they're beautifully designed, built with high quality materials, and they have enhanced their surroundings greatly. So I think you'd be very, very proud of this in your community. I think it's going to help, and with your support, the John Bruning Commons would be another high quality project by St. Vincent de Paul that helps an acute need in our community for affordable housing. So I'd encourage you to support this zone change, you know, with a unanimous recommendation to Post Falls City Council. Thank you.
Thank you. Also in favor and wishing to speak, Alan Wolf.
These are the 3-story ones, I think, right here.
Gotcha.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I'd like to echo what Mr. Ingalls said. I thank you all for your service to our community. I'm here representing the business community of Post Falls through the Post Falls Chamber of Commerce. Several of us had the opportunity to go to the workshop and saw this project laid out and felt that it really fits what we all know we need workforce housing, and this is a great fit. We know that St. Vincent de Paul does a great job, and on behalf of the Board of Directors of the Post Falls Chamber, we would encourage a positive recommendation to the council. Thank you. And I do have a copy of the letter from the Chamber with their support.
Cool. Thank you.
Thank you.
How are y'all? Good.
Thank you.
I didn't do that. New guy. At least it wasn't me.
Did on purpose. All right, also wishing to speak in favor, Greta Gissel.
Thank you. Thank you, commissioners, for allowing me to speak today. And I want to echo John's sentiment and your volunteerism to your community. So thank you. There's a lot of volunteers in this room, and I'm grateful for everyone who gives time to their community because it's such an important thing. So St. Vincent de Paul has been around for over 75 years. I'm not sure exactly the time frame, but over 75 years. And they've been a staple in our community for people that are in need. And they serve with such a huge heart of giving and care for not only, from not only the older people, but the younger, the families, the kids. They do tons of stuff for kids who need to learn whatever it is. They help parents they teach parents how to help their kids, and so on and so forth. And so it's such an amazing organization, and what they're doing with the John Brunings Commons is such a great boon for your community, in my opinion. I think that not only will it be beautiful, but it'll be something that services your community in ways that are unfathomable and unmeasurable at this point in time. I was born and raised in North Idaho. I think I said my name earlier, but again, I'm Greta Gissel. And I come from a family that's been actively involved in community service my entire life. I'm the executive director of Connect Kootenai, which is an organization that was formerly known as CDA 2030. It's a nonprofit that exists to create a better tomorrow so that everyone can belong, thrive, and create a positive impact. This organization champions local worker housing projects, and a primary focus is to address significant housing challenges that residents in Kootenai County face. We've expanded our region to really focus on the humans in Kootenai County and look at everyone as individuals, and those, especially those that are in need, and the people who service our everyday lives here. So to put things into perspective, I'll give you some statistics. So 94% of the 1,500 people surveyed last year had their rents increased by an average of $376. The average rent in Kootenai County is $1,678, which is an average of 51% of a renter's income. And recommendations are about 30% of the income being paid toward housing. So this leaves individuals and families struggling to make ends meet, especially when you consider the child care for a toddler on average costs $538 per month, while infant care costs around $623 per month. And as a side note, that's 3.1% more than in-state college tuition for infant care right now. It's not nuts. With median housing prices hovering around $500,000 or more, and with area median income at $65,000, the cost of home ownership is out of reach for many families. For a family of four who can earn 120% of our area median income, which equals about $82,500, they can afford to purchase a home for $390,000 with 20% down, or a home of $310,000 with an FHA loan. A quick search of the MLS listing service this week showed 38 homes in Kootenai County, not including mobile homes on leased land, in this price range. The Regional Housing Growth Issues Partnership was created a couple of years ago to address challenges of home ownership for local workers and provide solutions to the housing crisis. They created a toolkit of items that was created to help policymakers in creating affordable housing options for residents in the area. It offers a wealth of resources and information to help guide decision makers in addressing housing challenges. Connect Kootenai was recently entrusted with this mission and vision of this partnership of the RHGIP, or Regional Housing Growth Issues Partnership. And as such, we'll continue working to provide vetted solutions that create, protect, and preserve local worker housing to address this crisis. Connect Kootenai is supportive of projects that incorporate toolkit solutions and address local housing needs. We advocate for affordable housing and support initiatives like this one of the John Bruning Commons in communities because we want to address these critical issues. Through our efforts, we desire to create a more inclusive and thriving community for everyone. This project is a testament to the power of community collaboration and the impact that nonprofit organizations can have on a society. And I look forward to continuing to provide information and resources developed through the efforts of Connect Kootenai in addressing the housing crisis in Kootenai County. Thank you for your time, and thank you for support of this phenomenal project. Thank you.
Thank you. Also in favor and wishing to speak, Katie Huff.
Thank you, Commissioners. My name is Katie Huff. I am a consultant at Murray Group. And Murray Group, we work with our local employers on their employee benefits and their needs. And I can tell you that the needs in our area for the workforce that are here in Post Falls, they're at an all-time need of not being able to fill their positions, have their core work staff afford to live in this area. So when I think of this project, I am thinking of how it is supporting the employers that are within our area be able to maintain workforce. Our housing cost, as many spoke today, is unaffordable and unattainable. Even myself and my family, if I were to newly relocate here, I don't know that I could. So when I speak to others about affordable housing, or some think of it as transitional housing sometimes, I hear people think of things that are undesirable. Right now, a lot of people think of homeless camps, of what is it going to do to our aesthetics. But the reality of a project like this is if you go donate an hour of your time at our Post Falls Food Bank, for example, you're going to hear the people walking through their doors are families with children and 2 incomes that cannot afford to live, and they have to choose between buying food for their homes or paying their rent. One of the stories I come back to with Post Falls Food Bank specifically being another nonprofit is, and donating some time there and spending time with Brana. I don't know if any of you know her, but she told me a story that sticks with me of a woman in her late 60s, early 70s. Grandma grew up raising her children within our community, and the housing market skyrocketed, and all of a sudden her rent goes up, she has nowhere to live, and she is living in, she comes to the food bank weekly, living in a field with a sleeping bag. Won't tell anybody where she's at, but she's within our community, she's a part of our community, others don't know that she's there. So to me, you know, that's a housing unit that someone needs and is not going to speak up and say. It's not someone who made poor life decisions that got themselves into a space that what we think of when it comes to those in need. A project like this is really supporting families, and through the services of St. Vincent de Paul, they have access to a plethora of transitional tools that help them better their lives, not only have a temporary solution, but oftentimes a leg up that can help them be ingrained in our community and doing great things. So I am in favor of this project, and I thank you for your time to speak, and I'm excited at all the services St. Vincent de Paul does for our community, but this one in particular, I don't know how you can go wrong. It improves the aesthetics of an area that's somewhat of an eyesore within the community, and then it's providing needed assistance to those within our community alongside of us, and helping our local employers have more workforce. So, thank you.
Thank you. Was there anybody that I missed? That was all the documentation we got. All right. I'll ask, I think I already know the answer. Any need for a rebuttal? It was Mr. Wheeler, right? I wouldn't think so, but.
Mr. Chair, thank you again. No need for rebuttal, but really just thank yous. Thank you, gentlemen. Thank you, ladies, for your comments. And in addition, not in addition, but including in this, Mr. Riley received over 14 letters of support for this project. And as you can see, we're not trying to, as the housing company, we're not trying to come in and do something just on our own initiative. It's a partnership, and we need that with the city. We need that with St. Vincent de Paul. We need it with other community partners, stakeholders, everybody around. And so I just want to thank you again for this opportunity to present. And also, again, thank you for everyone's support.
All right, thank you. All right, with that, close out the hearing. Ethan will get our criteria up here that we'll go through.
Forgot about that. The old criteria. Haven't done this in a while. Yeah, I know.
All right.
It's non-existent.
So this is
We're
a
all
zone
rusty.
change. Got a couple criteria that we'll go through here. So amendments to the zoning map should be in accordance with the comprehensive plan, future land use map.
It is.
What do the commissioner members think of that?
Yep,
Yeah, I think
yep.
it meets it. It's in the business commercial. It's shown in business commercial future land use, so I think it fits.
Yeah, I agree.
Yep.
Agree.
Number 2 is amendments to the zoning map should be in accordance with the goals and policies found in the Post Falls Comprehensive Plan. I think John outlined a whole bunch of them that were in the agenda in the packet here. Anything else specific you guys want to add to that?
It's in walking distance of businesses, so it's a good place for a higher density project.
Yeah, definitely. All right, next one. Zoning should be assigned with the following considerations such as items as street classifications,
Sorry.
traffic patterns, existing development, future land use, community plans, and geographical or natural features.
Yep. It's on a major arterial collectors.
I think we all agreed it was the
Perfect.
traffic was the Southeast Way. It's in an appropriate place for arterials and traffic, so I don't think there's going to be a problem with that.
Yeah, there's already apartments there, already a business.
Right.
They're basically just expanding a little bit and basically making it a better situation than what it is. So, all right, next one, please. Commercial and high-density residential is typically assigned along streets with higher road classifications. I think we just talked about that
Celtics,
with
yeah.
Celtics.
The Celtics, yeah.
It could be any higher.
Limited in neighborhood, commercial, and lower density residential is typically assigned to properties as they proceed farther away from the higher intensity urban activity. Ensure that adequate land is available for future housing.
I think we kind of said this one didn't totally apply.
Yep.
Yeah, it doesn't, I mean, there will be some neighborhood commercial, but it's not, definitely not the lower densities.
Right, right.
And then industrial zoning,
No.
this one does not apply because we're not looking at industrial zoning.
Correct.
All right. You guys have anything else you would like to add before we move on to make a motion?
I got nothing. I think it's a great addition. I'm glad everybody showed up to support. Usually we don't see it.
Yeah, I absolutely think it's going to improve the aesthetics there. It definitely looks a lot nicer than what we currently have there, and it really does fill an important need.
Yeah, I totally agree, and I think when it was Greta, when you were talking up front, I was trying to remember what the RHG IP, what that acronym was from, because we had gone to that workshop. I think it was late last year, and I think the gentleman from Habitat for Humanity was in there too, and some other individuals from in this room also. So I think it's a good project.
Yeah, I'd drag that speaker around with you wherever you go.
There he is. Yep. Yep. So, all right. Well, with that being said, I will entertain a motion if anybody would like to do one.
Okay, I will move to recommend approval of Housing Company's Zone Change File Number ZC-23-1, finding that the requested zoning meets the approval criteria in the Post Falls Municipal Code and is outlined in our deliberations, and direct the staff to prepare a zoning recommendation of SC5 or Smart Code 5 to be provided to City Council.
All right, we have a motion,
Second.
and we have a second. Take a roll call, please.
Walton,
Yes.
Stephenson,
Yes.
Ward,
Yes.
Hampi.
Yes.
All right, that will move on to City Council.
That's a good motion.
Just give it 1 second here and let a couple people leave.
Oh, great.
All right, we'll move on to the next hearing of the night. We open it up for Quailview Townhomes Subdivision. File number SUBD 22-15, and Ethan's going to present tonight.
Good evening, Commissioners. Ethan Porter, one of the planners here with the city, here to present the Quailview Townhome Subdivision, SUBD-23-15. The owner is Build Right Homes LLC, and the applicant on this proposal is Olson Engineering, and they're requesting that you approve the subdivision of 2.25 acres within the medium-density R2 zone, and they want to subdivide it into 22 lots with 1 tract for twin homes. So looking at the map here, you can see the hatched red area is the location of the site. It is just south of Creative Way, west of Expo Parkway, and north of Jacqueline, so it does have 3 road frontages along it, and it is east of and adjacent to the Woodbridge subdivision. There you see the flippin' storages just north across Creative Way there, and then I'll go into the zoning more so about kind of how it's zoned around it, but this would be the project location that you can see, I-90 there to the south and east. Currently, it's vacant. The water would be the East Green Acres Irrigation District purveyor for that area, and then wastewater would be provided by the City of Post Falls for that location. So here, looking at the zoning map, again, flip and storage, like I said, is that industrial, that lighter color to the north. The yellow is R1 single family, which would be the Woodbridge subdivision. And then just north along Creative Way there at the top, you can see some of the R2 zoning, which this location hatched in black there is also zoned as, and there is approval for some duplexes and twin homes up in that area as well in the past. To the east, across Expo Parkway, you see the red, that's Community Commercial Services. And so that kind of gives you an overlook of how the zoning is laid out in this area. The subdivision itself, here was the plan that Olson Engineering provided. So the smallest lot along these twin homes is going to be 2,662 square feet. The largest, just over 5,000 square feet. For twin homes, we have a standard and official bulk and placement table being a minimum of 2,400 square feet for the dwelling unit. Twin home is going to be 1 structure with 2 residential homes separated by a common wall with a lot line. So basically 1 structure, 2 single-family homes, and they are on their own lot. So that's kind of how they had it laid out on the east, or sorry, not the east, but the right of the screen, south of that road on the end. There's a tract, I believe that is for their stormwater plan. Looking at the review criteria for subdivision, we look at the first one, calling out definite provisions being made for the water supply system, make sure it's adequate in terms of quantity and quality for the type of this subdivision proposed. Water service to the project, like I mentioned earlier, is Green Acres Irrigation District, East Green Acres Irrigation District. So they will be providing water in that area for that purveying district. Looking at the second review criteria, we look at provisions, make sure they're being made for public sewage system, that the existing municipal system can accommodate the proposed sewer flows. So with the city being the wastewater provider, we do have adequate capacity to provide service to the subdivision as proposed, as laid out and detailed in the staff report. Looking at the third review criteria for the subdivision, we look at the streets, making sure they're consistent with the transportation element of the comprehensive plan. Looking at staff's comment, the subdivision and proposed layout are consistent with the city's transportation master plan and their design standards. looking at the fourth review criteria, we look at all areas of the proposed subdivision, which may involve soil or topographical conditions presenting hazards have been identified, and that the proposed uses of these areas are compatible with such conditions. So vacant lot going to twin homes in a subdivision at this time, we haven't had any known soil or topographical conditions which have been identified as hazards. Again, this is above the Rathdrum Aquifer as well. Review criteria 5, we look at subdivision being zoned for the proposed use and the use conform to the requirements found in this code. So since this is proposed as twin homes in the lots and the layout, and they do comply as staff reviewed and seen in the staff report as well. They do meet the city's twin home standards and bulk and placement table as well. And then review criteria 6, we look at developer making sure that the adequate plans to ensure that the community doesn't bear no more than its fair share of costs to provide the services by paying fees, furnishing land, providing other mitigation measures for off-site impacts to streets, parks, and other public facilities within the community. Again, impact fees will be assessed at this time of building permits, and so those will be associated with and paid at the time of the building permit. So that'll include parks, fire, EMS, public safety, multimodal, streets, those impact fees there. Agencies that this were routed to for comment are listed above, as you can see. And then of these agencies, what received back for comment was the Yellowstone Pipeline Company not having a comment, and then the Kootenai County Fire and Rescue reserves comment for the city review process during the time of subdivision as well as development. And then the Post Falls Highway District had no comment, and then the school district for Post Falls remains neutral. And with that being said, I will entertain questions that you have for staff at this time.
Questions?
I don't have any.
Nope.
All right, thank you. And the applicant?
Oh, that right there. Gotcha.
Good evening, Commissioners. Jeremy Terzulli, Project Coordinator, Olson Engineering here in Post Falls, Idaho. I didn't prepare a presentation tonight because I felt that the staff report covered everything, that we've met all of the review criteria. So just a quick background. About a year ago, we brought this zone change request before the Commission, talked it through, and you guys recommended approval. City Council upheld that and voted unanimously to approve the zone change. At that time, we indicated that we were hoping to do some twin homes here, try to sort of bridge that gap between something like the previous applicant is proposing and that more traditional R1 single-family residence on those 7,000 square foot minimum lots. This is our attempt to sort of fill that gap. Not a whole lot of people doing it yet. I know there are some projects that are trying to move through the process to create that intermediate. As Ethan pointed out, the twin home, the best way I can describe it is from the street, it appears to be a duplex. Put the property line right on that party wall so that each unit can be owned fee simple individually, hoping that a buyer and an owner of that parcel can build some equity and hopefully bridge to the more traditional single-family dwelling. So that's the goal here. So again, we indicated we were hoping to do twin homes about a year ago. That's what we're bringing forth. Had several meetings with city staff to try to get this right. Working through the road design, minimum lot sizes, setbacks, all those types of things. And this is about our third iteration on this, and we think we've got it right now. Utility coordination, we've already started that. We've got our application in with Avista to provide power and natural gas out here. Will serve letters from the water district and the city. Yeah, we believe the design meets all of the code criteria. Those multiple meetings with John and staff have got us to this point. And at this point, we're ready to submit construction drawings pending your approval. One thing I did bring out, John had pointed out in a previous meeting that he was a little concerned about additional parking, so I provided an exhibit for parking to show that, well, and with Mr. Paulus's recommendation to widen the street to 32 feet so we could get some additional parking on both sides of this proposed private street. And so unfortunately, I only made 3 copies, so you guys will have to share.
Thank you.
And what that shows is that the developer is proposing 2-car garages. If feasible, we believe it is feasible. They've already begun work with an architect. So the driveway widths are wide enough so that each unit can hopefully have a 2-car garage with the additional 2 stalls in the driveway. And then parking is allowed along Creative Way. There probably won't be any parking issues due to the industrial nature of the use across the street. So in essence, they're not going to be sharing it with another residential subdivision, as well as some internal capture there. So with that, I'll stand for any questions.
You said 2-car garages?
That's the hope, and
That's the
I've
plan.
actually, I was a little suspicious of that, but I've seen some of the drawings from the architect, and they were able to achieve it.
Do you know if the intent is to use these as rentals or if it's?
The intent, so the developer Build-Right Homes, he's kind of a one-off builder, bought a couple of the lots in the latest Woodbridge phase, and that's when he eyed this piece. His intention is to build these and sell these.
Okay.
And R2 versus R1, probably because of just the location, the shape and of it, makes it hard for R1?
It's all about the housing, the unit type. R1 doesn't allow for the twin home.
Well, I know that.
Okay.
Medium density, yeah.
But I'm saying because of this, why not do R1 since it's already, isn't it zoned R1 now?
No, we're
Or-
R2.
Is it R2?
Yeah,
Oh,
we
okay.
brought it before you guys a year ago, got the
Oh, okay.
R2 zoning designation deliberately so that we can do twin
Oh, this is
homes.
Subdivision, gotcha, okay.
I think what's next to it is mostly just R1.
Yeah.
But then there's commercial or across the street. or-
Commercial,
South.
southish,
Yeah, so
and
which
the
is a
industrial.
good fit. It's a little more of
Yeah.
a,
Kind of in that area
Little
where there's a
higher
little bit of
density.
everything.
Sort of that bridge between your
Yeah.
higher intensity and your single-family
Gotcha.
R1.
They think they're putting apartments here.
And then farther north, I think Ethan mentioned there's twin homes and apartments that possibly,
Yeah, so we brought that one to you guys probably 2.5, 3 years ago. It's kind of these odd shapes that were left over after the Woodbridge subdivision through the Expo Parkway 7 plat, I think. And they just kind of sat there with no commercial users, and a couple of local developers thought it'd be a good opportunity to try to get that different product onto the market. So you guys actually saw that one about 2.5 years ago, I think.
any other questions?
No?
No.
All right, thank you.
Thank you.
Any public comment?
None.
No public comment. No need for any rebuttal, so we'll go right into review criteria. All right, so this one, we're looking at subdivision review criteria. See, provision has been made for the water supply system that is adequate for the terms of the quantity and quality of the subdivision proposed.
and the city said yes, correct?
Yeah, we got East Green Acres, and I'm assuming since the Woodbridge is right there, it's probably fairly easy to connect up to. And the city has the sewer, so. Next one, please. Adequate provisions have been made for public sewer, and that the existing municipal systems can accommodate the proposed sewer flows. Yeah, the city's gonna be Post Falls, and in past hearings, if there are concerns with this one's always been brought up. We've talked about this for other things before, so think we're good there. Next. Proposed streets are consistent with the transportation element of the comprehensive plan. Any thoughts on that one?
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, looks good.
Yeah, I did like, just to mention, they're gonna widen the street, so it seems like
there's
parking,
on-street parking,
you know,
yeah.
some neighborhoods, some apartments are definitely, it's tight parking. You know, some of these roads are down to one lane, one way. But if we're widening it, two-car garages should help also. So. All areas of the proposed subdivision, which may involve soil or topographical conditions presenting hazards, has been identified, and that the proposed uses of the area are compatible with such conditions.
Yes.
Yep. Nothing was mentioned there. The area proposed for subdivision is zoned for the proposed use, and the uses conform to other requirements found in this code.
Meets the twin home standard, and that's what they're.
Twin home and the, yep, R2. The developer has made adequate plans to ensure the community will bear no more than its fair share of costs by providing services by paying fees, furnishing land, or providing other mitigating measures for off-site impacts to streets, parks, and other public facilities within the community. It is the expectation that in most cases, off-site mitigation will be dealt through the obligation to pay development impact fees.
Impact fees will be assessed and collected at the time of building permits.
Yep.
We've addressed that.
Agreed. All right. That is that. Close the hearing. And what do we got? What do you guys think?
Well, I think this is kind of that product that we had been talking about. We needed something a little bit different where people could maybe still have home ownership with something maybe that wasn't quite as expensive because it was had a common wall and the lots weren't quite as large. So I think that's a good product. And I think we said when they brought this to us for that zoning change originally, I think that's what we said. That's we kind of need more of that.
Yeah, I think missing middle is the term.
Missing
that's
middle,
been
yes,
used. Yeah.
yes.
But yeah, because of the type of product it is, it should, in theory, it's not going to be, you know, we can define affordable housing however we want to, but it'll be a little bit smaller. So hopefully it'll be a little bit more affordable for individuals as opposed to what the medium housing cost is around here. Any other thoughts?
None.
All right, entertain a motion.
Okay, let's see. I would move to approve Quailview Townhomes Subdivision, file number SUBD-22-15, finding that it meets the approval criteria in the Post Falls Municipal Code as outlined in our deliberations, and subject to conditions 1 through 10, which are contained in the staff report, and direct staff to prepare a written reasoned decision.
Second.
I have a motion and a second. Roll call, please.
Walton,
Yes.
Stephenson,
Yes.
Ward,
Yes.
Hampi.
Yes.
All right. That'll move on to City Council now.
Oh, shoot.
All right, next public hearing, we'll open up the Millsap Landing Annexation and Subdivision. And Laura Jones is going to present this one.
So this is-
All right. Good evening, Planning Commission. Laura Jones, Associate Planner with the City of Post Falls, introducing the Millsap Landing Annexation and Subdivision. So 2 separate case files tonight. The first is ANNX 2216, and the second is SUBD 2216. And I would like to start out noting that in the staff report, there is a revision that needs to be done to Condition 9 regarding the homeowners association. Condition 9 states that all new subdivision roads would need to be maintained by the HOA, and that should be stricken, and it should just be Bogey Drive to be maintained by the HOA.
Okay, so number 9.
Wait for you to finish your note there.
Oh, yeah, you got, I think I got it.
The owner is Wild Horse Investments. The applicant is Ray Kimball with Whipple Engineering. The requested actions tonight, again, there are 2 of them. The first is to provide recommendation to City Council for the zoning designation of single-family residential R1 on 5 acres as part of an annexation request into the city. The second request is approval to subdivide approximately 5 acres into 18 single-family lots, contingent on annexation approval from City Council and the zoning recommendation from the Commission. The property is located south of Bogey Drive and between Greens Ferry and Cecil Road as indicated on the map. It's in a county island currently. It is currently used as a large lot single-family residence situated over the Rathdrum Prairie Aquifer. The City of Post Falls will provide wastewater services, and Ross Point Water District will provide water. Looking at the surrounding zoning, again, this is in a county pocket, so to the north and east are large lot residential properties located within the unincorporated portion of Kootenai County. And then to the south and west are R1 subdivisions. To the south is the Knapp addition, and to the west is Renly Estates. The first zone change review criteria is that amendments to the zoning map should be made in accordance with the future land use map. This is designated as low-density residential, and this category encompasses all types of single-family uses up to 8 dwelling units per acre. It is also located in the 41 North Focus area, and the predominant trend here has been single-family residence, and the comprehensive plan anticipates that trend to continue. Looking at zone change review criteria B, amendments to the zoning map should be in accordance with the goals and policies found in the Post Falls comprehensive plan. Staff has determined quite a few goals, including goals 5, 6, and 7 to be relevant, and those are to keep Post Falls neighborhoods safe, vital, and attractive, maintain and improve Post Falls transportation network on pace and in concert with needs and plan objectives, and to plan for and establish types and quantities of land uses in Post Falls, supporting community needs and the city's long-term sustainability. Additionally, goals 8 and 14 are applicable, and those are to protect and maintain Post Falls natural resources, including clean air, soil, rivers, and aquifer, and minimizing light and noise pollution citywide, and to involve the community of Post Falls in all local government planning and decision-making. In order to achieve these goals, we look at the different policies that are applicable in the comprehensive plan. Policy 1 is to support the following land use patterns, which we've touched on a couple and we'll further look at in upcoming slides. Policy 2 is to apply or revise zoning designations with careful consideration of factors including future land use map and compatibility with surrounding land uses, which we've just reviewed, infrastructure and service plans, and existing and future traffic patterns, which we're going to look at next, and then the goals and policies of the comprehensive plan, related master plan and/or facility plans. So looking at those infrastructure and service plans, the City of Post Falls will provide water reclamation services and has the capacity and willingness to serve the site, as does Ross Point Water District, who will provide water services. Looking at the street classification and adjacent and future traffic patterns, the property is adjacent to Bogey Drive, which is a minor collector, and with the annexation, the applicant will be required, or the property owner will be required to dedicate rights of ways and easements to obtain an 80-foot wide right-of-way width along with a 10-foot sidewalk drainage and utility easement. And there will be local circulation with the design of their subdivision, with access to the south through the Knapp subdivision to Poline Avenue. Continuing on with the policies, Policy 8 is to encourage compatible infill development or redevelopment of vacant and underutilized properties. So this could be argued that it's potentially underutilized as just a large single-family lot. Encourage annexation of county islands within the city with priority given to areas surrounded by incorporated areas that have readily available service infrastructure and capacity and that support increased development intensity near the urban core. And I think all three of those bullet points are applicable to this property. Policy 15 is to ensure that adequate land is available for future housing needs, helping serve residents of all ages, incomes, and abilities through provision of diverse housing types and price levels. And I just want to point out that it's interesting tonight that we heard of the low-income housing, hearing the missing middle, and now the single family. So we're kind of hitting on all of them tonight.
Sure, yeah.
Policy 24 is to plan for and protect transportation corridors from encroachment and preserve adequate rights-of-way for future corridors and utility facilities, which I mentioned with that 10-foot easement and the additional right-of-ways. Policy 27 is to work to improve street connectivity in all areas of Post Falls, improving walkability, public health and safety, and transportation efficiency. I mentioned that there will be a connection through the Knapp subdivision to the south. Policy 33, annexation should help implement Post Falls transportation plans, enabling completion or preserving continuity of circulation patterns for roads and pedestrian ways. 45 is to guide annexation decisions, guided by and considering master plans for water, sewer, transportation, parks, schools, and emergency service. Provision of necessary rights of ways and easements, and studies that evaluate environmental and public service factors. There currently are no known studies for environmental factors. Timing that supports orderly development and/or coordinated extension of public services, and comprehensive plans and goals and policies. Review criteria C is for zoning is assigned following consideration of such items as street classification, traffic patterns, existing development, future land uses, community plans, and geographic or natural features. Again, I've touched on all of these, and as mentioned in one of the first slides, this is situated over the Rathdrum Prairie Aquifer. Criteria D is not applicable. It deals with commercial and high-density residential zoning. Criteria E is that limited or neighborhood commercial and lower density residential zoning is typically assigned for properties as they proceed further away from the higher intensity urban activity areas. You can see on the map the subject property is in this red box here, and so it is outside of the high intensity urban activity areas. Criteria F is not applicable. It deals with industrial zoning. And there's no industrial zoning in the area, nor did they apply for industrial. So that concludes the annexation portion. Moving on to the proposed subdivision. They are proposing 18 single-family residential lots. There's a north-south connection of Neptune Drive kind of going down the center. There's extension of Hahn Street, which is the connection to the south through the Knapp subdivision that I mentioned earlier. And with it, again, East Bogey Drive will be increased in width and get utility, sidewalk, and drainage easements and have frontage improvements. The first review criteria is that definite provision has been made for water supply systems that is adequate in terms of quantity and quality for the type of subdivision proposed. Again, Ross Point Water District is the water provider, and they have provided a will serve letter from Ross Point. The second deals with public sewage systems, saying that they have they can accommodate the proposed sewer flows, and the city of Post Falls has said that we have adequate capacity to provide the subdivision as proposed and in conformance with the city's water reclamation master plan. The third review criteria is that the proposed streets are consistent with the transportation element of the comprehensive plan. Staff has mentioned in the report that this should not have a negative impact on the local transportation system. And again, there's the dedication of easements and right-of-ways that will meet the city's standards outlined in the City Transportation Master Plan. The fourth criteria is that all areas of the proposed subdivision, which may involve soil or topographical conditions presenting hazards, have been identified, and that the proposed uses of these areas are compatible with such conditions. I mentioned earlier that we don't know of any environmental studies that have taken place, and there are no known soil or topographical conditions which have been identified as presenting hazards, and again, over the Rathrum Prairie Aquifer. Review criteria 5 is that the area proposed for subdivision is zoned for the proposed use, and the use conforms to other requirements found in the code. The subdivision approval is, again, contingent on your recommendation to City Council and then their final approval. The subdivision and proposed lots do conform to the requirements of Title 17, which is our subdivision ordinance, and Title 18, which is the zoning ordinance. This chart here on the right is our bulk emplacement table, and the R1 single family zoning district is highlighted here. It's a little hard to read. The minimum lot size is 6,500 square feet. On the left is their site plan data table for the subdivision, where you can see that the average lot area is about 8,700 square feet, with the minimum lot size as just over 7,200. So they are exceeding that. Review criteria 6, the developer has made adequate plans to ensure that the community will bear no more than its fair share of costs to provide services by paying fees, furnishing land, or providing other mitigation measures for off-site impacts to streets, parks, and other public facilities within the community. As you heard earlier tonight with subdivisions, impact fees are paid at the time of building permit approval, and that includes impact fees and cap fees, and those will help mitigate off-site impacts to parks, public safety, streets, multimodal transportation, fire, EMS, and water reclamation facilities. This is a list of the agencies notified and given the chance to comment on the project. We've had 4 comments from public agencies. The Highway District requests that the city annex all the way across Bogey Drive to the north right-of-way line. Yellowstone Pipeline says there's no impact to their right-of-way and has no comments. Kootenai Fire and Rescue reserves comments for the time of permitting process, and the Post Falls School District will remain neutral. And with that, I am happy to answer any questions.
I did have one, because you talked about number 9 to reflect that Bogey Drive be maintained by HOA. So the whole of number 9 right now is a homeowners association HOA shall be formed to maintain the common right-of-way frontage along Bogey Drive and all new subdivision roads, including all landscaping, irrigation, and removal of snow from sidewalks and trails. So would it just be, would we keep in the including all landscaping, irrigation, and removal of snow and sidewalks and trails? Or do you see what I'm saying there? Is that, so it's really just that kind of that first sentence, that to be the common right-of-way frontage along both. You just take out all new subdivision roads, really?
I believe so, and Rob, correct me if I'm wrong. I believe it is just and all new subdivision roads that we would strike.
So really, we're just taking number 9 as is, but deleting and all new subdivision roads from, okay.
Correct.
Bogey Drive, that's the part that's not finished, right? So, and you just mentioned the...
Right, and the aerial here, it's a little bit transparent, but you can see the improvements stop right here at Renly. This is Renly Estates, and then it is unimproved going east from there. I'm not sure where it picks up again, but there is that gap.
Yeah, so they would be required to do that part, plus the frontage on this side, and then the recommendation would be, or what's the rule as far as how far they gotta go all the way across?
The recommendation
Obviously,
from the
big
Highway
full
District
road,
was to go to the north right-of-way line. As far as improvements go, again, I'll let Rob come up and speak, but it's typically right-of-way, or half of right-of-way, plus 10.
Perfect, all right. Any other questions?
None.
invite the applicant up, Mr. Kimball.
Good evening, Commissioners. My name is Ryan Andrade. I'm a civil engineer for Whipple Consulting Engineers. I'm here tonight on behalf of the owner, and I'm going to be brief. Ms. Jones did an excellent job at going through all the requirements. We have no objection to any of the conditions for approval, even the revision to Condition 9.
Okay.
So we have no objection to any of that. So I'm just going to quickly breeze through, and then if you have any questions for me, I'll be happy to answer those. So again, project site is located as shown on the screen, just south of Bogey, and then with a connection to the south to Hahn. Future land use map shows low density residential, and we are one of those lots in the island, in the county island, but also included in the low density residential, and that's what we're going for. Same with the existing zoning map, very similar, surrounded by R1 to our west and south, and even back in city limits to the north and east, besides the CCS and the LC to our east. So annexation criteria is the zoning compatible with street classification, traffic patterns, existing development, future land uses, community plans, and geographic or natural features. As stated before, yes, the zoning is the same as the adjacent properties to the south and west, fits the future land use map, and complies with the city's transportation and sewer master plans. The R1 zoning is supported by the comprehensive plan as described in the narrative and in the staff report. The lower density residential zoning is typically assigned for properties as they proceed farther away from the higher intensity urban activity. The proposed R1 zoning in this case is surrounded by residential uses and is approximately half a mile from the higher intensity Highway 41 corridor. Zoning should be in accordance with the future land use map. The property is shown as residential on the future land use map, which is consistent with the R1 zoning request. Zoning should be in accordance with the comprehensive plan goals and policies. The proposed R1 zoning designation meets many of the goals and policies found within the comprehensive plan as described in both the project narrative and the staff report. This is again the same image that Ms. Jones showed earlier of the subdivision with Neptune Drive down the middle, north and south, with the connection to Hahn to our south property line, and Bogey Drive as shown on the north side. Subdivision criteria: have the provisions been made to supply adequate water? Yes, the proposed subdivision is within the boundaries of Forest Point Water District, water service boundary, and the will serve letter indicates that the district has the ability and capacity to serve water to the property. Have the provisions been made to supply adequate sewer? Similarly, the proposed subdivision is within the boundaries of the City of Post Falls Master Sewer Service Area, and according to the staff report, the city has adequate capacity to serve this project. Are the proposed streets consistent with the Transportation Master Plan? The right-of-way will be dedicated for Bogey Drive to the city, to city standards, and provisions have been made to adequately provide connectivity to adjacent properties, so our connections to Hahn to the south, and then as Neptune comes around as well. Are there any soil or topographical conditions that present hazards or are not compatible with the proposed use? There are no known hazards or topographical conditions that are incompatible with the proposed use. And does the proposed use meet the requirements of the zoning code? The proposed subdivision meets all the requirements of the R1 zoning. And that's it for me. Questions?
I don't have any.
None?
Questions? Nope. Thank you. Public comment? No public comment. No need for rebuttal then.
So I do want to make one clarification. This might benefit Kibbe as you're new to the P&Z Commission. So it got a little confusing with the annexation criteria, zoning criteria. So the way it works for the P&Z, we have zone change criteria that's in support or goes towards an annexation request before City Council. So half the puzzle is the P&Z's role in recommending the zoning element based off that zoning criteria.
Yeah.
The annexation's a separate matter, which city council will decide that, based off the recommendation for zoning.
Okay.
So we're only doing zoning, or we're
We'll have
recommending
two.
zoning?
Yes.
Only?
Well, and also there's a subdivision that's before you, which you saw there's a condition that's subject to city council's decision on the annexation. So if the annexation dies and it's not in the city, therefore the subdivision goes fail as well. So it's a
Okay.
conditioned subdivision approval. So they're both running concurrent. Two different things. The
Oh.
annexation part will go to city council.
And just to dovetail off that, you're considering the subdivision based on the city council approving the zoning as recommended, so.
Right,
So
so,
you're-
and so we
you're-
don't really have to say that in that. We're gonna go with the zoning recommendation, we're gonna make a zoning recommendation, that would be the first part. And then second, we would, approve or deny the subdivision. We don't need to clarify anything about city council, we just do that and it comes in the matter of, that's how it, okay. And okay, I think I got it. I think I got it.
All right. No, that's clear as mud. We'll
They
start
bring it
with-
up all the time.
Yeah,
so-
no, it makes, because it is kind of.
It's a little bit clumsy.
Yeah, it's because
I know,
city
I think I
council-
ask the same question every time. So you mean we have to do it?
Yeah. So we're doing this, and then it's obviously contingent on what the city
Right.
council does, so.
Okay.
So we'll look at the annexation and zone change criteria first. Amendments to the zone map should be in accordance with the comprehensive future land use map.
It is.
It's pretty
Yes, it is.
Lays
self-explanatory. It's pretty much R1.
R1.
R1
Yep.
Wonderland out there.
Mhm.
Yep.
Yep. Next one. Amendments to the zone map should be in accordance with the goals and policies found in the comprehensive plan.
I think it absolutely is. I don't see any issues with that.
Yeah, I didn't see anything that wasn't either.
Yeah, just trying to find some specific ones here. Transportation network, so there's gonna be another north-south corridor there, which is always good for different roundabouts and.
That'll create connectivity.
Connectivity, yep. Number three, please. Zoning is assigned the following conditions such as items as street classifications, traffic pattern, existing development, future land use, community plans, and geographical or natural features.
Bogey's a minor collector, so that works.
Future land use says R1.
Yeah, it's all, that's what it all is out there.
Yep. Next one, please. Commercial or high-density residential is typically assigned along the streets with higher road classifications.
That's not
applicable for this one. Limited or neighborhood commercial and low-density residential is typically assigned to properties as they proceed farther away from higher intensity urban activities, ensuring that adequate land is available for future housing needs.
We decided that's quite a ways off 41 or any main.
That was brought up in the staff report, yep.
Yep.
Number 6, industrial zoning, not applicable.
Not applicable.
All right, so we need to make a motion first, right? Or
we chat about it, or?
do you wanna, do we go through this first?
Yeah, you can deliberate on the zoning recommendation, and then make that motion and recommendation, then we'll move on to the subdivision.
Okay. All right. That
Um,
being said, thoughts?
I would say for for zoning recommendation, it completely makes sense. It's infill, it's pretty much surrounded by R1. I don't see, I don't see how we could get a better fit.
Yeah.
Right there.
Yeah.
It's infill.
There's only 3 lots left in that island out there, you guys.
Yeah.
be closed.
Hopefully Bogey will get done at some point. I don't know if anybody's driven on that lately. It's fun. All right, anything else?
No, all seems to fit.
All right, entertain a motion for the zone change recommendation.
Okay, I move to recommend approval of Millsap Landing Annexation ANNX-22-16, finding that the requested zoning meets the approval criteria in the Post Falls Municipal Code as outlined in our deliberation, and direct staff to prepare a zoning recommendation of R1 to be provided to the City Council.
And then,
I'll second.
well, before we get a second,
Sorry.
adding the conditions and amending number 9.
Oh, wait, that's in
That'll
subdivision.
be in the subdivision.
Is that subdivision?
Yeah.
Oh,
I think-
my bad.
Yeah.
I'm jumping ahead. All right.
Okay.
Forget. All right. We got a second?
I'll second.
Second. And roll call, please.
Ward,
Yes.
Hamby,
Yes.
Stephenson,
Yes.
Walton.
Yes.
Yeah, I'm confusing my own self.
She went out of order, caught me off guard.
Yeah.
So now where we pretend that it's been annexed and approved for R1, and now we consider the subdivision.
All right.
Subdivision, yeah.
Let's pretend subdivision criteria. Definite provision has been made for water supply system that is adequate in terms of quality and quality for the type of subdivision proposed.
That's been clear.
I think there was a will serve letter in there. Number 2, please. Adequate provisions have been made for the public sewer system, that the existing municipal system can accommodate the proposed sewer flows. Again, that was called out in the plan, and there was no issues with that either. Number 3, please. Proposed streets are consistent with the transportation element of the comprehensive plan.
They are.
Yeah, this is improvements on Bogey, and then adding another.
The connector to the other one.
Yep, the connector, yep.
Connector, yep.
All areas of the proposed subdivision, which may involve soil or topographical conditions presenting hazards, have been identified, and that the proposed uses of these areas are compatible with such conditions.
No known studies.
No known
Known studies.
conditions.
Exactly. The area proposed for the subdivision is zoned for the proposed uses, and the uses conform to the other requirements found in this code.
True.
R1?
R1,
Kinda true.
yes.
Yep. And number 6, developer has made adequate plans to ensure the community will bear no more than its fair share of the cost to provide services by paying, furnishing land, or providing other mitigating measures for off-site impacts to streets, parks, and other public facilities within the community. This will be mitigated through the obligation to pay developer impact fees. That was outlined in the staff report. Pretty straightforward.
Agreed.
All right. Any additional thoughts on that subdivision?
None.
Seems to be all in order.
Seems to be the way of the land there.
Yep.
The way we're getting connectivity and we're getting those road improvements so that
Infill.
they'll eventually.
Bogey right now is like an ORV track. It's kind
Yeah.
of cool. As long as you're in your wife's car.
Yeah, there you go. All right.
And I think that's the only way we're gonna get it there, so, okay.
All right, Nancy?
All right.
Would you like to make a
So,
motion?
Hey, if anybody else would like to, I'm.
No, we're working on your motions
Okay,
tonight.
okay. I will move to approve Millsap Landing Subdivision SUBD-22-16 finding that it meets the approval criteria in the Post Falls Municipal Code as outlined in our deliberations, subject to conditions 1 through 10, with the change to condition number 9 to read, a homeowners association HOA shall be formed to maintain the common right-of-way frontage along Bogey Drive, including all landscaping, irrigation, and removal of snow and sidewalks and trails, period. As
From-
contained in the staff report, and direct staff to prepare a written decision, or a reasoned decision, sorry.
Thank you. All right, we have a motion
Okay.
Second.
and a second. Roll call.
Stephenson,
Yes.
Walton,
Yes.
Ward,
Yes.
Hamby,
Yes.
Trying to keep you on your feet.
Yeah. Push-ups are next.
All right. Final public hearing tonight. We'll open this up. We have a comprehensive plan amendment, and the applicant is the city of Post Falls, and John Manley is going to present this one.
Yes, now we get to the presentation I mixed in the first public hearing.
Gotcha.
It's kind of hard to imagine when the slides look so different. But, so here we are, comp plan amendment, file number CPA 23-1. So the applicant, as you mentioned, it's the planning division here at the city of Post Falls. We're asking you to recommend the requested amendments to the comprehensive plan. So on page 114, it's the chapter 114 of the comprehensive plan. There's some additional underlined text that I'm going to go into here. This is where I'm going to skip forward to the focus area here. You can see that on the outer limits, it's a little fuzzy as what that means. So when you're in those zones, we really didn't know if there was ever an application out there on the perimeter, how far does that extend? So working with legal, we would go to adding some clarity. And the reason why this is important is this: you have the transitional purpose, and I have it highlighted. In the transitional zone, it pretty much punts to the focus area of where you would go for guidance. And you've seen that tonight where we've talked about focus area on guiding principles. So the additional language says that on the outer boundaries on figure 104, that's the one I sped to at the end of the slide, are representative of the focus areas, and they're not intended to be definitive. Focus area boundaries on the periphery of the map extend to the city's area city impact boundary, including those areas contained within a shared tier of city impact. These areas include the West Prairie, Central Prairie, 41 North, and East Prairie focus areas. So here's those 4 areas that were mentioned: West Prairie, Central Prairie, 41 North, and East Prairie. So how basically the ACI, the reference to area city impact, you have a portion that's the exclusive tier. It's an area dedicated out on the prairie that's to be served by the city of Post Falls. And then you have other areas that extend further that are in the shared tier. So the shared tier is an unknown jurisdictionally. It could be provided to the north, somewhere between Hayden and Wyoming. There's this a line that could be served potentially by Rathdrum and or Post Falls. Similarly, along the east side between Hayden and those other jurisdictions, Rathdrum and Post Falls to the west. This just states that you would go ahead, if there was an application, go up to the end of those, up to the shared tier. Someone could ask for that, and we would use the applicable focus area to go provide guidance. Does that make sense, or does that make it confusing?
No, so if they're just in the transitional, and this question's come up before, it's like, okay, it's in can't even say that word anymore. Transitional, we're gonna look at the focus area to kind of help define what's out there, but nothing Transitional is technically not define what actually could be out there, but in those areas, we'll use the focus group to help define it.
Yeah, there's a little bit of disconnect because the transitional says it goes out there, anything outside is transitional, versus that focus area map. It's a little confusing. Well, where does that end point? And so that's what legal then provided this is saying that end point of using the focus area would occur at the at that shared tier of city impact at the end of that.
Where it's underlined, is that the part that we're talking about?
Yes, that's the additional language that currently
Okay.
does not
Exist.
exist.
Okay.
That we're adding to that portion of the focus area descriptions in chapter 114 of the comprehensive plan.
Okay. Okay.
Yeah, to kind of help clarify, John, if you can go back to the focus area. So this is the focus area diagram that is in the comprehensive plan. But as you can see, it's kind of loosely drawn in. We have the nodes out on, oops, I'm sorry. You see the commercial nodes out on East Prairie.
Right.
It's sort of, by extension, it's obvious that that would probably be in the East Prairie focus area. It's just the way that this diagram was created, it's zoomed in a little bit closer than we would probably want now.
Correct.
And so it's really just amending the comp plan language to extend those boundaries
Okay.
out. So farther to the east, farther to the north, for those focus areas to include areas up extending to our ACI boundary, which is outside of this diagram.
At the time of the adoption of this, we didn't have our land application sites annexed in,
Okay.
which we do now. And so by default, if we remade this map now, it would have zoomed out more so we can include our land app sites.
Can you go to the other map?
Okay.
I think what would, and this is just my opinion on the focus one, if there's some way you could draw in the actual city boundary, that would be helpful to understand that too. I mean, I guess it is in there, isn't it? It's kind of light.
There's a lot going on these maps.
Yeah, for sure. So basically, if we're looking at this,
Where's the city boundary going north?
Well, and that's why it's changed. The city boundary on the north end would be out
It changes
past this diagram.
based on
Okay,
annexations, right?
Okay.
It goes
Okay.
beyond this map, it's the limits of this map now, the current city boundaries.
Well, why don't you make us a new map?
We'll do that in our our full update.
I mean, I think a new map would be the
So
way to go.
actually, we get privilege enough probably the early next year to get started on the next comp plan update for
Oh.
2025, so.
Is the purpose of this to extend it to allow more property into the city?
No. So, for instance, let's take Central Prairie. So we have annexed area beyond where this map shows.
Okay.
So any development that may come in north of Prairie connected to this line would be in our transitional area in our future land use
Okay.
map, which our future land use map says per the focus area. So if we don't have a focus area there, how would we analyze that property? And so what the clarifying language does is it extends out that focus area to our ACI boundaries so that we could possibly
Plan for it.
consider.
Okay.
Sure.
We'd have something to base an analysis on.
Sure.
Okay, that makes a little more sense to me. I mean, I'd rather just see you remake the map, but I guess they have to have the, yeah. I got it.
And the consultant made the map, and I don't have that data to make the map, so it actually creates a problem to repurpose this map. And so it's easier to add language
Okay.
than fix the map. I probably would like to fix the map too,
Okay.
but it would
One thing at a time here, right?
Yeah.
Okay, okay. I understand kind of what the idea behind the new language is then, okay.
Yeah.
Cool. Makes sense.
Yeah.
Any other questions?
Is that it?
See, once we get it, it sounds simple.
Oh, okay. Oh, all right. What?
There's a lot of work up.
So what do we need with this? Just a recommendation to move forward to?
Yeah, so it's a
city?
public hearing, so open it up for comment, for opposed, and go from there. Close the public hearing and then deliberate, and it's a recommendation to city council.
And it's a recommendation to city council.
All right. In that case, any public comment?
No.
Kind of guessed that. Anything else to add, John?
Nope, nothing more to add. I'm afraid if I say anything, I need Field to bail me out on this one.
The need to clarify.
In that case, I will close the hearing, so you don't have to. And you guys understand everything now?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah. Makes sense.
I don't want to downplay it all, but it seemed more or less a kind of a minor housekeeping item because things are changing so fast within the city and the borders probably changing probably monthly, weekly almost. So, and then whenever the bigger update is made, get more clarification.
Get a new
But
colored
obviously-
map.
Yeah, get a new map and everything, but obviously that can't be done every year because that in itself is probably half a year project, if not longer.
Although if we get an update next time, we'll get the data so we can actually make the changes. So.
Gotcha. Perfect. All right, if there's nothing else, entertain a motion on this amendment.
Do we move to recommend approval? Or what do we do?
Well, so I'm not really sure how to do this.
So it's a
Okay,
it's a legislative motion.
It's a legislative.
not a
I think I gotta look
quasi-judicial.
in my little thing here. Legislative motion, okay. Okay. And we're recommending, so I move to recommend approval of the comprehensive plan amendment, CPA-23-1. To add language to the focus area description as presented in the staff report.
Good, thumbs up?
I'll second.
All right, we have a motion and a second. Roll call, please.
Ward.
Here.
Happy.
Yes.
Happy.
Yes.
Stebbins.
Yes.
Walton.
Yes.
All right, moving right along. Next item is administrative and staff reports.
Well, I do got some unfortunate news. We're losing one of our planners. This will be Laura's last
Oh.
night with us. We've been blessed to have her, but she's been able to, expand in her own professional career, and we're all happy for her.
Coeur d'Alene didn't steal you, did they? Oh, okay.
Wallace is growing.
Oh.
Well, that is sad, but congratulations and
Yes,
best of luck.
absolutely.
That's for sure.
Oh, yeah, I think
Commissioner comments.
It's called Gathered, not The Gathering. Just thought I'd throw that out there. It kind of sounds cultish in a way.
You made it through your first meeting.
Made it.
All right. Now, next meeting, you have to do all the motions because
Okay.
Nancy's done for at least 2 meetings.
Deal.
Yeah, she's got them all in. She's
Yeah.
reached her quota.
Next month, we had mentioned that we might have 2. Is that still on the docket, or is it just 1, or?
I believe it is, right, Amber? We still got the 2?
If we can move them forward, yes.
Yeah, we have, right now, at this time, yes, that is
still planned.
Just, we'll be on the lookout for emails as far as scheduling of that second one.
What was that? I didn't catch that.
There's gonna be 6 meetings this month.
Possibility
Okay.
of two meetings next month, so we'll have the regular one.
Oh, and then, okay.
beginning, and then we'll get another one scheduled.
Okay, got it, got it.
So we'll be hearing from Amber about that one. All right. Next item is number 7. Anybody want to do that one? That's easy.
Come on, you
I
can do it.
move to adjourn.
There you go.
Adjourn. Second?
Second.
Yeah,
I'll
second.
No, I don't
All
think
right.
we need a second.
We're adjourned.
What's the date?